very little to offer here. I just want to hear from y'all. But first, Greg, if you could just tell me, how did this all start? Whew. And while you're watching this movie, I had a few drinks, so please be nice to me.
I mean, that's Flash.
7.5 years ago, I was producing a short documentary inside of a maximum security prison. It was my first time ever going inside any prison, and we were making a doc about something else. But on the tour of the facility, I was in a cell block and I passed by a cell, and a young man was inside his cell and raising a rescue dog. And immediately, as I past him, I became aware of the healing that was happening in both directions between this young man and this animal, and it completely upended all my expectations. A lot of those expectations was propped up by the industry that I'm a part of, the film business, and the stories that have been told before us. And I went back to my hotel that night, and I was so curious, and I just started typing in the Google machine a simple question of who is doing things differently in prison. And at the very top of the search field was this program in New York, Rehabilitation Through the Arts. And they've been covered in all of the press, the New York Times, the New Yorker, NPR. They've done all the classic productions, from Shakespeare to On the Waterfront, A Few Good Men. But there's this one piece in Esquire about one of the only comedies they'd ever done, an original called Breaking the Mummy's Code, written by Brent Buell. That was performed for 2 nights only at Sing Sing. And there was something so special about the playfulness of the tone of it and what it was opening up for the people that were a part of it that knocked me out. And very soon after that, I actually met Brent, and he lived up to the hype in terms of how he believed in these people and the relationships he continued to this day. And he set up a breakfast, and 2 of the first people that walked through the door, he wanted me to meet some of the people who had come home. 2 of the first people that walked through the door was John Divine G. Whitfield and Clarence Divine I. Macklin. And that was the true beginning. And then we built this wonderful relationship with the real RTA, in addition to Catherine Balkins, who was the founder of the program and actually became volunteers in the program and taught an acting class at another maximum security prison that they worked in called Greenhaven. And we'd been chasing that feeling of what it felt like to really be in that room ever since, all those years later, until we brought you this movie. Before you hear from these wonderful people, there are some others amongst you in the room, some of whom are seeing the film for the first time. And so I want to shout out a couple more for you before we get started. And I hope you share the same love. But as I say your name, please stand up. Dario Pena. James Biggie Williams. Patrick Cream Griffin. Andrew Tano. Real life Brent Buell. Dave Alston. Cozy Eagle. And founder of RTA, Catherine Rocket. That's all I got. I'm probably speaking in for the rest of the night.
Well, how did this all start for you all? I'll start with Claire's dad at the end and work our way back.
I became involved with RTA under some circumstances that was not good. But listen, I came down to the theater one day and I watched the play. I didn't intend to watch a play. I came there to do something else. But however, a play was going on. So I watched the play, and as I'm watching, I'm noticing that there's guys up on the stage that's in population with me. I was under the impression that all of these actors came from New York, came from the streets. But I seen brothers up there, and there was women up there, and these guys was next to the women. I needed to get up there. So, but once I did get into RTA, because I had to take a year off of without getting in any trouble or anything, because you gotta have a year with no tickets, no infractions or anything in order to get into the program.
Oh,
Yeah, I had to stop doing a lot of things so that I can get into the program, you know. So a year later, I get into the program, and the same women that I was basically lusting after became my sisters, my aunts, my people, my family, you know, and it was the lust went away. It was more family orientated, and that's how they made me feel. They made me feel as if I was their family, as if I was becoming a part. I was stepping into a new family. So it was amazing for me. The amount of love, attention, the amount of people listening to my problems, and even my own peers. I gotta thank this brother right here, man, John Winner. This the brother that brought me to RTA. Him and Brent Buell. Brent is in here somewhere. They're in here somewhere. These brothers. They saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. You know, I was under the end. I thought that all I could ever be was a thug, gangster, yard monster, things that I was normally used to because this is all I saw. You know, and this is how people reacted to me, so I fed into it. But then when you meet people that see something different, that see the man that you can be, you know, and they help nurture and bring that out. And that's how I got into RTA, man. From there, I springboard from there. All these brothers was in college. I was the only one that wasn't in college. However, I read a lot, so I know a lot. And I was able to keep up with the conversations. Like in the wings, when we have downtime, we have conversations. They have college conversations, and I just involve myself. You know, so that springboard to get me into college now, because there was an entry exam coming up. They dared me to take it. I took the test, scored the highest in the room, so now I got to go to college. So, you know, all of us went to college. I got my bachelor's degree, brothers up here got masters, you know. They held me to a standard that I didn't hold myself to, and it helped me. And it changed my life. It changed the trajectory. It changed everything. It changed the way I see the world. It changed the way I see people. And it changed the way I want people to see me.
Peace. My name is John Devine G. Whitfield, and I'm a founding member of RTA. And let me tell you something. This right here was one of the most productive, the most brilliant programs I've ever been involved with. And I've been involved with a lot of programs. As you can see from the movie, you know, I've always been somewhat of a prison leader. I've always been progressive. I've always been into things, you know, positive things. I mean, when I first came into prison, I was going through a journey just like most other individuals when we enter the prison system, because prisons are rough. Prisons are not easy. And, you know, sometimes you have to step up to protect yourself. So with that said, you can imagine where I'm going with this. But another thing in my situation was a bit unique from most other people. I came to prison for a crime I didn't commit, a murder I did not commit. So I had an extra added force that was somewhat unique from a lot of other individuals in prison. There's a lot of us in there that didn't do crimes and didn't, you know, whatever. So our energy capacity is a bit different from the average prisoner. Because your mission when you're in there for something you didn't do is to try to get out. So when I came to prison, I went straight to the law libraries, lived in the law libraries, and I learned how to read, write. Well, no, that's not true. I graduated from high school when I was in the street. When I was in the street, I was a natural born entertainer. I was a DJ. I danced on television with a professional group called Realism with Stephanie Mills. So I've been an entertainer practically all my life. So when I actually saw RTA had came to me and asked me, hey, listen, we doing this play. And they had heard that I had did a performance in Green Haven. It was a talent show. And, you know, I was kind of old at that time. I was about 30, 40, whatever. And I came on the stage and I did a dance routine. It shocked everybody. I mean, old man Divine doing backflips. You know, so everybody word traveled real quick that I was an entertainer. So when I got to Sing Sing, they asked me to get involved with a play. This was before RTA came into existence. But ultimately, we did that play. The play was a success, and then eventually RTA came about, and I was one of the founding members of that program. But I want to say this, man. This movie here holds a unique and a very special, moment in my life, because this movie right here has told me that everything that went wrong in my life ultimately turned out to make everything come right in my life. Because if I wasn't in Sing Sing, if I was not in Sing Sing, during all this tumultuous situation, I would have never wrote 13 novels. I would have never wrote 12 screenplays. I definitely wouldn't have probably got a master's degree, a bachelor's degree, associate's degree. And without this wrongful conviction, it would not have brought out the true potential that I knew I always had, but I just needed that fire to bring it out. Sometimes in life, we got to get crushed. We got to hit rock bottom. We got to get almost mistreated to bring out the beauty and the power in us. Because that wrongful conviction brought some things out of me that I just never knew that I had. And with that, I want to say that I am truly proud of this man right here. Because he was a handful. He was a handful, but guess what? It was about 4 or 5 a little worse than him. So you can imagine what we had to deal with. And me as a key recruiter for RTA, who had a passion for the program, and by the way, I'm a natural born helper, so every time I come on projects, it's just that I'm like that worker bee, that I got to be in the midst of everything, trying to help everything, because that's just who I am. It's a personality trait and it's a character that I think is good. But to stay on point, this program is a miracle-inducing program, because I've seen transformations that was out of this world. Some of these guys you think was like they throwaways. Oh, this guy, we can't help. And we had situations with guys like Dino would come to me, and they've seen it in the movie. The movie is so accurate to the elements that I don't know how Craig and them shoehorned all this stuff in here and got everything right. And he did it. It was times that I would go out on a limb for certain individuals who were running the yards. I mean, these guys was terrorists, stabbing, selling drugs, into every activity you can think of that goes wrong in prisons. And I say, you know what? Give them a shot. My rule was give everybody a shot and let them hang itself. But we got to give them the shot. We got to give them the shot. And the most important thing that we got to do is when we get them in there, show them some love. Because let me tell you something. Love is the power to rectify probably half of these, I would say 90% of the problems that we got. If we can just infuse a little bit of love into a situation, you will be amazed at some of the outcomes that we can get. And that's what we used at RTA. We had to infuse some love with this, show these brothers that we really cared, that we were genuine about telling them, listen, you seen all the stuff that I'm doing, running NAACP, doing all this, doing all that, giving back to the community. You can do that. And another thing that was very important, we were changing the views of the administrator. Because changing the views of a prison administrator is one hell of a feat. They got their minds set up. And for us to have changed that, I knew we had something very great, something beautiful. And right now, this program is in dozens of prisons all across New York State. And what we would like to do is see it in prisons all over the world. That's what we would like to see. With that, I want to thank y'all for coming down here, and I hope and pray that y'all enjoy this movie. Thank you.
Yeah, so Divine G and Divine I stole all the thunder tonight. I don't think there's much left to be said. Divine G and I, we share an issue in this world that's really important, and it's the issue of wrongful convictions. I spent 24 years incarcerated for a crime I didn't commit. I spent 15 of those years in Sing Sing. And I can tell you that it is the programs and the volunteers that you see on the side of that wall going all the way to the back. Please give them a round of applause. It's those volunteers that demonstrated to us that we have value in this world, that demonstrated to us that we deserve to be treated like humans, right? And that changed the trajectory of our growth as individuals who were incarcerated. And the people that benefited from that weren't just the individuals that were a part of RTA. Because I'll be the first one to tell you that I actually joined RTA on the set of this movie. Real talk. I supported RTA throughout my entire incarceration because they blew my mind when I saw the first play in a maximum security prison. It was about the end trial. And the end trial was actually about the word that we don't use anymore, which is nigger, right? And so there was education entrenched in the arts, and it was shared with a facility that changed a culture of people. And so what we want to do with this film is change a culture of people. And we want you to recognize the power of people first language, right? The power of people first language. To refer to us as inmates is disrespectful. To call a black person a nigger is disrespectful, right? And we need to learn that moving forward. When we talk about people, we're talking about people that were in a situation. Incarceration is the adjective. People is the noun. We are all human in this room. And the people that we represent in this film are all human. So I decided to take this time to give you that lesson and speak less about myself and more about the people that this film represents. And I hope that you take that and you share that with the people that you know in this world. Because that is how we start change. Thank you.
Dino, before you start, AJ, do you want to recognize, you have a special guest in the house tonight. Do you want to recognize that person?
I have two very special guests. They're in the left corner. It is my mother who taught me everything I know. So if you respect me, you have to respect her. And my partner in life who has changed the way that I view this world and has helped me be a success so that I can help all of you understand exactly what we need to understand to continue moving forward. Thank you.
My story's a little different. I want to begin by saying I'm a student of the arts. Many years ago, I was a dysfunctional individual. I couldn't communicate. I couldn't be effective in communicating. I was one of those guys that used to just sit in the corner and just look at people.
Look at him now.
And I tried not to say much because every time I opened my mouth, I was misunderstood. The arts empowered me. I can't explain it, but to the point was I was a key block monster. Enraged. I'm 6'4", 275 pounds, with rage. And the arts became a vehicle for me to express myself. And once I started expressing myself, I couldn't stop. and just imagine, holding so much in for years, and you given the ability and the vocabulary. It's like, shut up, I owe everything to RTA. I owe so much to RTA. And so many other people owe so much to RTA. I didn't realize until I look back at those days in the classroom, it took a lot of courage. Because here we are in a maximum security facility where violence is the order of the day. and to take that mask off and be vulnerable. And that's something that we all did. We took that journey. And that's what made us begin to love, like Tamanji said. It also gives us a sense of community. Because many people in prison, you know, what's a community? The community don't want me. I'm not part of that. They don't really understand what a community is. But I remember the first day when we went to the school building, we wasn't a community then. You had all the gangsters in this corner. You had all the jazz musicians over there. You had all the philosophical guys over here. You had other, you know, and it was all categorized. And we all looking around at each other like, I don't mess with that dude. You know what I mean? Clicking up. And before you know it, scripts started going around and we started going through the script. And we started bonding with each other. And we realized we had so much more in common, you know? And that was the first time I understood what a community is. That to me is the most greatest gift RTA gave. As men now, we can come home and we can love our community. We once hated our community. Now we love it. So I say to you, all the arts, powerful people.
That's why I went first, Monique. Good luck.
Put me after Dino, come on, and everyone else. Like, what can I say? I was introduced to RTA and to this whole project through Greg and Clint, our other producer. And my previous work had dealt with incarcerated people and formerly incarcerated people. And but Greg and I lived in Austin for about the same time, around 14, 15 years, but we never crossed paths. And then during the pandemic, we had an office, me and my creative collaborator had an office space that we weren't using. And so Greg, connected with us and wanted to sublet it. And he said, you guys have a dying plant in here. Like, I'm gonna revive this plant to bring it back to life, which was a good sign. And then we all hung out around a fire and we started talking about how we make films and talking about, this idea about a community-based